All aboard, train leaving the track. It's 3:10 to left as we get you caught up on what's happening with the Red Sox and bring in some of the best guests in Red Sox Nation, including a really cool one today. We'll get to that, but first, let's get to my favorite guest, the co-host of the show. He's Alex Speier of the Boston Globe. I'm Tom Garrett of Nesson, and we're finally going to get the New York Yankees this weekend. Alex, how you doing?
Well, I'm glad that we're finally arriving at divisional play. It's only 65, 70 games into the season, so it's an exciting time.
Can we let's talk about that for a minute, okay? And we do show prep, and
I just
we have
poked the
not prepped
bear.
for this.
I poked the bear.
So how do you, I get you need to play every team every year, okay? I don't necessarily agree with it, but it is what it is. I understand the reason. You want to see the Phillies. The Phillies want to see Fenway, all of that. Okay, I get that. There has to be a way you can do that without waiting 70 games to see the New York Yankees. 70 games. And we haven't seen the Toronto Blue Jays yet at all. Not that anybody cares about the Blue Jays. But the New York Yankees are rolling into town. You can't half a season's gone by just about before you see the Yankees. There's got to be a better way.
I mean, it's just a scheduling thing, right? Like you can still play the same teams, and it's just changing the sequencing. It really is surprising because, especially when you think about trying to generate excitement for the season. Like I remember a bunch of times when the Yankees would be the Marathon Monday game, right? Or at least like right in proximity to that. And the idea of spreading things out a little bit more in the beginning of the season, I guess, makes more sense. But it is a strange thing. It does speak to the priority that's being attached to the balanced schedule and the move away from divisions, which in turn means the move away from true hostile rivalries, which is in some ways it's a bit of a shame, right? Like this is there's so many vivid memories of what happens when teams face each other 20 plus times in a season, and the dynamics are just totally different now that we've moved to this balanced format.
Two things, and one I'll get back to in a minute because you've poked the bear on another topic here, the division, getting away from the division. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. It's not about, yes, I'm pointing at you. But 13 games, right? I think that's what it is. You get 13 games. What is the obsession with getting 7 of those games out of the way in a 10-day span? It seems like we are doing that with everybody. We play the Rays, play the Orioles, play 10 times, and then you don't see them again until September. We play the Yankees, we play Toronto, right? We have 2 series against Toronto, and then you're not going to see them again until the end of the year. Can't we space that out? 2019, I went back and looked, and I think it was the end of like a 3 or 4 year stretch where, again, they're not every single year, but it was pretty close to a stretch. And you had 19 games against the Yankees. I get it, more games. But you would play the Yankees every month. Every month there would be a Yankee game, right? So you'd have a 3-game series just about once a month. You can't do that, but you can spread this out a little bit, can't you? Wouldn't it have been nice to have a 3-game series with the Yankees back in there? And again, watch what you wish for. Yankees are the best team in the American League. I'm not necessarily talking about the power index of the two teams right now, but in general for this rivalry or any other meaningful rivalry in baseball, don't you want it spread out so you see them from time to time? And they're 200 miles down the road. It's not like it's hard to get them here.
And it's not just that it's time to time, but it's like it tells a very different story of the season when you get to see how teams evolve over the course of the year, right? Like, you think back to 2004 when the Red Sox were incredibly hot coming out of the chute, and they end up in the 2 series against the Yankees at the beginning of the year. They end up kind of wiping the floor with them. Those are spread out beginning of April, end of April, and then you get to middle of the season where it's like, oh, they're back together. Oh my gosh, they're stuffing mitts in people's faces and that sort of thing. And then at the end of the season, right, like you're looking at teams that are theoretically rivals at very different shadings of the prism. And I think that speaks a lot. And like the idea that you would be able to dominate a stretch of the schedule simply because of, let's say a blip in the schedule with regards to health or roster composition, right? Which is going to be subject to change, by the trade deadline, by injuries, any number of things. Yeah, it makes a ton of sense if you care about having these teams measure themselves against each other over the course of a full season, to have them play each other over the full expanse of the season.
It just seems like it would be good for the game. We'll get to this week in a second. But my other soapbox, this has been my crusade this year, is your
Do you have
fine newspaper,
soapboxes
the
that you
Boston.
keep available? Do you keep a
I
lot of
do, and
soapboxes around? Okay.
yes, and for anyone under 40, you can go Google what we're even talking about when we talk about a soapbox. Okay,
Tom will race off the
but
soapbox racer next episode.
yeah, the Pine Box Derby or whatever that was called. The Boston Globe, your newspaper, wonderful publication. If you were to pick up the Boston Globe today, nowhere in the Boston Globe does it tell you how far out of the playoffs the Boston Red Sox are. Nowhere. It has, what is it, 13 games as we speak that they are out of the AL East, which really no longer matters. Major League Baseball has devalued the standings in the division. I was going off on this with Sam Kennedy this week. You sit at the ballpark, you look at the Green Monster, there is one number only as far as standings. It's 13 games out of the playoffs. That's not the case. They're 2 games out of the playoffs. And it's not the Boston Globe. It's not the fine people who toil away inside the Green Monster. This is a Major League Baseball issue because they either have standings with the little WCGB, wild cards games back, over in
Rolls
the
off the tongue.
ninth column to the right. Yeah, it flows. They've got it completely. Next year, at the beginning of the season, they need to roll out an entirely new standings format that would, I think, would show the 3 division winners at the top and the rest of the league underneath stacked in playoff order. Because you're trying to build a game. The reason you have more wild cards, I'm going now, I'm on the soapbox. The reason you have more wild card teams is to create more playoff interest around the game. But if you're in Boston right now, and I guarantee you most people, except for the hardcore fans, have no idea they're within 2-3 games of a playoff spot. They think the Yankees are coming to town, we're 13 games out or whatever it is, and the season's over. And Major League Baseball has to do a better job of showing people the playoff races, because that's what I could ask you right now. You have any idea how the NHL playoffs work? It's the most convoluted thing. There's divisions, and then you go into this wild card pool, but they lay it out for you from the beginning of the season so you can see where your team is in the playoff race. Major League Baseball needs to start doing that.
Well, it's interesting because I think that the decision making of teams and what players are chasing is very much focused on the wild card. The whole idea of just get in, has become way more prevalent, and it was amplified by what happened in the postseason last year when you had a World Series between 2 wildcard teams with the Rangers against the Diamondbacks, and everyone in baseball paid attention to that. And the decision making of we're starting to get into that point of the year where we're talking about, do the Red Sox buy, do they sell? That decision is not going to be framed based on the AL East. They know they're probably they're let's just say it. They're not going to win the AL East this year, okay? And they know that. And so the question is, how much are they valuing the wild card? That's everything in terms of what they're doing with their roster. It kind of framed how they approached the deadline the last couple of years. Obviously, you've seen other teams such as Atlanta a couple of years ago, back in 2021, when they still went for it, even though they had zero chance of winning the division. They made the determination they were within arm's reach of the wild card. They made a few trades to upgrade, nothing terribly sexy at the time, but it ended up being the kind of perfect fits with Duvall and Soler, and they ended up winning a World Series. And so that's framing how the game is played, how teams are built. So you're right that it seems a little bit anachronistic to pretend that that the division is the be all end all, unless there's a legit division race going on, or unless the team that you're looking at is deeply involved in that division race.
All right. That we'll get back. I'll get back on the soapbox later this season. They have to redo it anyway. Trevor Story is going to join us this week. Great guest, and nobody knows the Red Sox better, even though he's not going to play for the Red Sox. Give the rest of the year. We'll get to that in a minute. Before we do, we just got about a minute here, Alex. The New York Yankees roll into town. Are you surprised by what they've been able to do? When Garrett Cole went down, you thought this is going to be a big blow. I don't know that they've had the pitching depth here to survive this. Clearly they have. It's a very good team.
I'm shocked. I think that I cannot believe that the Yankees have been this much of a wagon over the course of this part of the season. I'm with you. I thought that Cole's injury, and I talked to a lot of evaluators who were like, "Yep, that rotation is going to be in deep trouble." And there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding, Nestor Cortez and what he's going to look like, and Rodon, how well suited is he for New York, and Stroman, where's that going to go as he makes a transition to pitching? Obviously, he's been in New York, but the Yankees are a little bit of a different beast, and frankly, no one thought anything of what Lewis Heel might be able to contribute. I loved the arm in the past, but there had been nothing to suggest that he was going to be Garrett Cole for the first couple months of the season. And now the Yankees are about to get back Garrett Cole, not in this series, but it's getting pretty close. And it is startling. But I think that the thing that we overlooked was, what a healthy Judge can look like, which, don't shame on us for forgetting that, because last year was an unhealthy version of him. And B, holy cow, when you pair that with Soto, it is an awfully special dynamic. We got to see David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez hitting back to back. This is maybe two. This might be better than that. It's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. It's a good team. It's going to be fun to see. Again, the Red Sox trying to get through this week-long gauntlet, according to Elias, first time in history that they have a homestand featuring the top team in the National League and the top team in the American League. And it's the ultimate test. Can you stay 500 as you try to get through this? But we'll talk about the Red Sox here with a guy who is part of the team, on the team, not playing for the team. Trevor Story with a shoulder injury. Remember what a crushing blow that was. Just played 8 games this year. Had really taken that step into becoming the leader of this team, going back to Story time, right? The camp he had in the offseason with all the young players when they all came together. 2.5 seasons now, the Red Sox, 145 games, the injuries. But no one knows this team better. And it'll be great to hear about his progress and what he still hopes to be able to do in his time with the Red Sox in the years to come. Let's bring him in right now. Trevor Story, the injured shortstop of the Boston Red Sox, the guest on 310 to Left. Joining us from Southern California with a very Northwest look, the bearded Trevor Story with us. Trevor, how are you? Where are you? And how are you doing these days?
I'm great, man. It's good to see you guys. I'm out here in LA with, Dr. Elatraj's PTs, and I have the family out here with me, so it's been great. We're enjoying that Cali weather. Obviously, would much rather be where you guys are, but this is where we're at.
Well, I have to steer this initially into a very important direction, which is you are a huge Dallas Cowboys fan. You are also a huge Dallas Mavericks fan. We can get to that in a minute. But as someone who on all team jersey days wears a Micah Parsons jersey, what do you think about Micah Parsons saying that he could hit between 180 and 200 in MLB?
Oof. I'm gonna have to disagree with my guy there. I've seen some of the questions going around to some of the NFL guys, and some of them I feel like are really on point, and some of them are way off point. So it ranges for sure.
So what would he hit? I mean, if you had to guess, what would he hit?
Man, in like 100 at bats, I don't know. He could definitely get some infield hits, like some dribblers, some swinging bunts type thing. But I don't know. I don't want to throw a number, but I don't think he's getting more than 5.
And he'd have to be really good to do that. Although I will say your idea of the bunt, like it brings up those images of Lenny Randle in the 1970s when like someone drilled him 1 inning. So he gets up a couple innings later, drops the bunt and just dives at him and crushes him with a tackle down the first base line. So I think that maybe pitchers would be conceding a couple bunts to Micah.
Yeah, no doubt. That would actually be really fun to see, but not fun for the pitcher.
Not if you were the pitcher. Yeah, exactly. Trevor, a surefire sign that somebody is currently not active on the roster is when he looks at 2 reporters and says, "It's good to see you guys," because nobody says that here in the clubhouse, okay, when we go in there. So, obviously being detached from it right now, and you've been through this with other injuries, you want to be around, but you've also got to take care of yourself. It's a strange question, I think, but like, which is easier? Is it tougher being around because you're here and you can't help? Is it tougher being away because you're so far removed? I mean, I'm sure neither one is a lot of fun, but how different are those two experiences when you're with the team while injured or when you're away doing the rehab?
Yeah, I think, both kind of present different challenges. And everybody's different. I think I've always been such a guy that loves being around, and I'm just obsessed with baseball and love being around the team and trying to help any way I can. And I felt like last year I was able to do a lot of that. I was able to be more present because I was rehabbing with the team, and being more there on an everyday basis helps a lot with that, obviously. So missing games is tough, and being away from my boys in the squad is tough, no matter, if you're playing or, if I'm there with them personally or not. But it's been a different type of perspective taking, being away from the team a little bit. And just because there's, like, as much as I want to be there, there's not much that I can do about not playing baseball right now, So just trying to be in the best situation that I can right now for my rehab, and just mentally too. That's going a long way for me, and I'm feeling good about where I'm at in the process.
Well, I think anyone who's watching this would say that that's really good to hear, because it was painful, very candidly, to navigate those couple of days and around you, and to see what you were going through when you got the injury, when you kind of got the when you got confirmation that it was going to be season ending and require require surgery. How have you gotten through that, and where are you at now in terms of just the emotions of having this thing taken away from you again? And was there a turning point or some key conversations that just allowed you to kind of move beyond that very wounded initial reaction?
Yeah. Like you said, those days were tough. Those are, some pretty dark days. And I think, I haven't really felt that type of emotion or that type of feelings, really ever. And I think, navigating through those and just really, being vulnerable a little bit and talking about it, and just embracing it, to where, I'm not going to, obviously I wasn't, in a great mind space as we learned the news, and that doesn't just go away, overnight. So it's been really good to work through those things, and, like I said, embrace them, because I feel like if you don't and you just act like everything's all good and everything's roses, then you never really process it, and you just got to give it time to work through those things. And I've felt really good about that, and I think that's been something I've been able to do a little better, removed from the team a little bit. So, and it's there's still dark days, but I think my perspective of baseball means so much to me in my life, and my family, and it always has. And I think when it's taken away, this is almost 2 years in a row where I haven't been able to play, like I have for my whole life. So you find a way, and you find out some things about yourself, and you learn things about yourself that you learn to deal with, and you learn to get better in different areas of my life. And I think that's what I've been able to do.
The beauty of baseball, Trevor, right, is it's such a thinking game, right? But because of that, I feel more than other sports, the players, those of us who cover it, you're just always thinking about baseball. You're always thinking about scenarios. You're always thinking about what's going on. And, you sort of talk about the mental health part of it, right? And Chris Martin is on the IL right now, right? And I thought it was really courageous. He didn't try to say it was a physical injury. He said, no, I'm dealing with some mental health issues right now. And the team, obviously, baseball has become so much better at supporting you guys when you're dealing with that. But for you, having been through the roller coaster the last few years, what have you learned about that? What have you learned about taking care of yourself, the mental health challenges, and making sure that you're good and you're getting the support you need? How much have you learned through the process?
Oh, so much. I think the perspective, like I said, and I think this is true for a lot of people at our level, is that baseball is such an big part, if not the whole part of your identity. Um, and when that's taken away from you, sometimes can feel, you know, not yourself. And I think finding ways to deal with that, and like I said, being open and embracing these things, like Big Rig has been. I think that's the only way to do it. And I think the perspective, like when you can't play the game, you realize how much you love it. You realize how much of your time and effort and energy goes into it. And you realize too how much stress it puts on you. But I think being able to compartmentalize the game for me is what I've learned the best. Is like, if I don't, baseball has run my life for pretty much my whole life, and I think not giving it so much power, has been something that's helped me.
Are you as you go through this rehab process? Actually, let's dig it on that a little bit. What is the rehab process like right now? What is the outlook in terms of has it been reassuring in terms of what will be possible on the baseball side, or where are you at? What do you know about what the future on the field looks like for you?
Yeah, it's been a challenging process, man. I couldn't have imagined it to be this hard, in the beginning. And I think, I kind of expected it to be something that was a little easier than the elbow, and that's certainly not the case. I think this one is, and I think shoulder surgery in general has, the people I've talked to, they say it's one of the most challenging ones. And it's turned out to be a unique injury to where, not just the labrum, but the fracture and the place of the fracture, and just kind of things that you can't see that go on. You can see the fracture, you can see the labrum, but there's just a lot of trauma that happened to my shoulder that you can't really see. And, just being patient, and that's been the hardest part. But given where I'm at now, as opposed to, a month ago, is crazy. The amount of progress that we've made. So I'm really happy about that. And I think that's why it makes sense to be out here with my PTs out here in California, because it's like we said, a very unique injury, and something that, they haven't seen a lot of it, but they've seen a little bit more of it than anybody else. So it makes sense.
I will ask, you mentioned that it is unique, and I don't remember encountering both a fracture and labrum damage, but I think everyone, like, whatever, like a month ago when Xander suffered his injury, was like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe that we're seeing something so similar. Have you been in touch with Xander about his? You loved playing with Xander. You guys were great teammates. How much did that hurt to see him kind of experiencing something similar?
Man, right away, I reached out to him and I was like, hopefully it's not surgery, bro. Hopefully this is something that you can avoid having surgery, and it's something, not as serious. And turned out it was, thank God. And I think, it was crazy. Someone told me about it and I was like, no way, dude. Like, this type of injury to happen, and, to a ex-teammate and to Bogey, and like have it happen the same way was just, that was crazy to think that would happen. And, but yeah, thank goodness that he's doing well. And I know he'll bounce back, because it sounds like his was in a little better situation than mine.
This team, keeping an eye on what they've been doing. I've used the word resilient on more post-game shows than I think I've ever used in one season before, right? I mean, it's, say what you want about hanging around 500, but they've been doing it as the injuries have mounted and all of that, right? I mean, you've been out for pretty much the year. O'Neill and Devers have both been dealing with knees. You've had Casas on the 60-day. Bray, I mean, the injuries have just piled up. When you watch this team, what strikes you most about what they've done? And clearly it goes the other way, right? There are times like after Chicago, you're like, it's still a 500. But then they come back and beat the Phillies. You're like, oh, hey, they're 500, right? 500 can come at you from a number of ways. Give us your sort of assessment from 3,000 miles, what you've seen from this team.
Yeah, I'm riding the wave with you guys, man. This is always awesome game, awesome win. It's just been fun to watch the young guys kind of step up. Like you guys said, it's been the amount of injuries has been incredible, and to like everyday guys that we're really relying on to post and to be a big part of our team, and the way they've stepped up has been so fun to watch because that's a big sign of maturity, and you can see them starting to gain more confidence in their game. Looking at Hamilton and Rafaela, I think he's just scratching the surface, and Duran, these guys, Abreu, that's a lot of young guys that are contributing. I think if you get one or two of those guys in a normal season to contribute like they are, then that's really good. But we got 4 or 5 guys doing that, not to mention the bullpen. So it's been fun to watch, and like you said, very resilient, very gritty team, and just seems like the boys are competing.
How much are you watching? Are you like are you locked in every night, or are you have you been kind of giving yourself a little bit of space from the game? Are you texting with all of the guys or all of the story time camp alums, or are you keeping everything at arm's length?
Yeah, I'm definitely keeping up with the guys. We're just we've created a lot of great friendships, and it's I think it's important to stay close with those guys, and a lot of texts. Obviously the group chats goes off pretty much every night, but most nights I'm locked in. I try to take some nights off to really be with the family, and but I like for my boys to watch it too. Watching the game with Stetson and Nolan, he's a little younger to really understand, but I think Stetson, he likes watching the Red Sox, and it's fun to see it through his eyes a little bit. So that's a unique opportunity. So it's always tough for me to get away from the game, but I've done good to give it a little space too.
When Alex and I both covered AC as a player, right? When Alex Cora was playing, he was one of those guys where everyone would say, he's going to be a great manager someday, to the point where Cora would be like, I'm kind of tired of guys telling me I'm going to be a great manager. I'd like to keep playing for a while. I enjoy playing the game. You have kind of been thrust into that role a little bit. Mentoring is one thing when you're playing, right? But you've sort of taken on a little bit of a role as an unofficial coach with this group when you've been injured. And you took that really to that other level with the camp this winter, bringing in some young guys and sort of passing on some of the lessons Tulowitzki and others passed on to you, right? So what's that like for you? Like, how have you adapted to that? Do you enjoy it? Have there been any aha moments where maybe something you said has manifested itself in a game and you said, there it is. That's exactly what we've been talking about?
It's something that I've embraced, definitely, like you said, over the last few years. I feel like in my last year or so in Colorado, that was something that I made that was going to be important to me. And with like anything else, with time and with experience, you grow into it and you feel more confident in that space. And I think for me, it's the guys are going to experience is the best teacher, but if I can, help with like little recovery stuff, or, I've been talking with Duran a lot about that, and just, man, I think it goes a long way just to hear from, veterans about, as young players, like, even if the stats aren't going great, like the at-bats are going well, just that affirmation and just, having the process be what you're really dialed on. I think those are the things that you can really relay and really kind of hammer to the young guys. And because baseball's not fair, man. You're not going to have the results every night, and something you're working on that day, might not show up in the game that night. So just more of like a mentality to where it's, I'm building these game of negativity. I think that's important.
It's actually interesting that you bring up Duran, because I think, when you were throughout your career, with Colorado, you were one of the most durable players in major leagues, right? Like you were a guy who wanted to post seemingly 162 from afar. What is it like watching Jarren Duran having played every game of the season so far? And do you think he can do 162?
Man, I love it. He's my favorite player, man. I love watching JD. He just ignites the team. I feel like he, with all the triples, I think he's leading the league in triples, and his at bats are really good. He doesn't really throw away at bats. He just brings a lot of energy to the club with his speed, stealing bases, running around in the outfield. And yeah, he's young. He's 27 maybe. He can play 162. He just runs so hard, man. He runs angry, and I think you just gotta, that was a big thing for us in Colorado. We were trying to recover as best as we could, and it's a little easier to do in Boston, without the thin air. But it's something you have to be really diligent about, and those are the things that we've talked about, is because those are the type of players we want to be, and that's what it's important to JD to go out there and play every day and be a tone setter. So you got to do the things off the field, after the game, before the game, so that you're available.
So it would have been harder to play at altitude, just like on the physical tool. But how many triples would Jarren Duran hit if Coors Field was his home instead of a place where the left field wall was 310 to left?
I mean, yeah, he'd have at least 5 more. That's the thing about Coors that a lot of people don't realize, is the outfield is so big.
Yeah.
So much space, so much green grass that man, if you get it by the outfielder, like, he can go 3 every time.
No doubt about that. I want to ask you about the pitching, even though you're not necessarily working with the. How amazed have you been by what this group has been able to do? I mean, we call it the Andrew Bailey effect, call it what you want, right? But it's been the right voice at the right time. You said you're watching the roller coaster along with us. Have you been as amazed as we have at what this pitching staff's been able to do?
I have, man. It's been incredible to watch. Like you said, it's not much of a huge change in, personnel player wise. It's been a kind of an overhaul, I guess, in the strategy of how we're doing it. And obviously Bailey and a lot of our, analytic guys have a lot to do with that. And, it seems like it kind of started there at the end of last year. I feel like we were onto the, kind of onto the scent there. And I think, man, the way that they've overhauled that and just made it a strength of our club has been fun to watch, because that's been something that hasn't been the case, obviously, in the last couple of years. But, yeah, just super pumped, to see guys like Houck take a huge step, and the way he just has that presence about him, and just he's going 6 or 7 every night, it feels like, and possibly the whole game. So that's fun to watch.
One guy I did want to ask you about is Marcelo Meyer, and I know you guys, started the connection when you were up there rehabbing, right? And I know that he stayed in pretty close touch with you, and he's really, watching him play healthy this year has been something special. What's the ceiling? I mean, what are we going to see someday from Marcelo Meyer?
Yeah, that's, it's so key to, know in your mind and in your heart that you're healthy. And I think we're seeing that kind of come to fruition with Marcelo. He did it the right way. He went about his rehab and did his thing, man. So props to him for doing that and taking his time there. And you can just see he's advanced, man. He's just super comfy at the plate. I love his swing. I love just his whole approach there. He's hitting line drives. He's not hitting like towering home runs or, beating the ball on the ground. He hits the ball on the line a lot. And I think that's a sign of a really good hitter. And he's just smooth, man. It seems like the game goes slow for him, and that's always a good sign.
So we've talked a little bit about roller coasters. I want to give you credit as, like, you are a legit Mavs fan. Okay, right? Like you are, you care. You're from, you're from Arlington. You care about the Mavs. How there are a lot of Celtics fans among your teammates. You said you're on the text chains. How much trash talk has there been going your direction over the course of this seemingly insurmountable 3-0 deficit in which the Mavs find themselves?
Yeah, we're in bad shape, man. Uh, and it's been tough. I've talked to a lot of my friends because I love watching the Celtics too. That's been obviously when you're a part of the Boston sports scene, I've just been entrenched to all the teams, man. It's just like the fans there. When you're there, it's like something about it, man. It just feels different. It feels like more. So I find myself rooting and being pretty passionate about the New England teams. And but yeah, growing up in Dallas, like I'm a diehard Mavs fan, Cowboys, everything Dallas really. And yeah, just doesn't look good. Doesn't look good. I don't know what else to say, but yeah, if we were going to go on the trip where they wore all the Celtics gear, that would have been a tough one for me.
Right ahead of you, man. So this is tough, man. You're never going to say good to see you again. We start with the shoulder, we end with the Mavs down 3-0. This is I don't know why you'd agree to do this ever again, but we're glad you did. I want to ask you finally, Trev, before we let you go, just what's the progression from here? I know you don't get too caught up in timetables and timelines, but what do the next few months look like? When can you get back to doing some baseball stuff? How should it all lay out if everything goes well?
Yeah, that's kind of the tough thing to kind of pinpoint right now because of the uniqueness of the injury and just kind of the time that we had to give it to just relax and calm down from the surgery. So, I think ideally, I certainly see myself doing a lot of baseball activity, July, August, hopefully towards the end of, September, I can be feeling, somewhat like a baseball player. So that's definitely my goal is to get, some good baseball reps in, towards the end of the year. And, the same old adage, just one day at a time and not trying to look too far ahead. But there's a lot of truth to that, especially when it comes to this type of injury. And just got to give it the respect, the trauma that took place. So, but I feel good about the way it's going and the progress that I made.
Well, can't wait to see you. Play catch with the kids, man. Just get that ball back in your hand, get it started. That's what it's all about. Trevor, we appreciate it. Next time we won't do it when the Mavs are down 3-0. All right, we promise. We'll do it when there's a neutral situation going on. Listen, we appreciate the visit, Trevor. Nothing but the best. See you back here at Fenway soon. We appreciate the time, man.
All right, guys. Thank you.
And happy Father's Day to you, man. Hope you enjoy it with the boys.
That is
Thank
the
you.
upside.
Thanks.
Enjoy it with the kids. Yeah, absolutely. Great Trevor Story joining us on this edition. We thank you for checking things out. We'll see you again next time on 310 Left.